What's good, YouTube? Def back at it again with the daily reaction video. Today we're gonna get into this the 500-pound monster NBA player. I think it's from Amway. You see the link. All right, let's get into it right now. Let's go.
Is the biggest guy the world has ever seen touch a basketball.
Bro,
is it
he
even
pushing
legal
a
for
car?
this dude to be 6'10", 500 pounds and
Holy-
play basketball? This is a
holy
man so
guacamole,
powerful
bro.
even LeBron would be afraid.
500
moving around the court
pounds?
like Steph,
6'10"?
with handles like Iverson.
How does
To
he
be
walk,
honest,
bro?
I've never seen
How does he
anything
walk?
like Troy Escalade Jackson.
Bro, he can dribble though. Hold up.
While you probably never heard of Troy, you've definitely heard of his older brother, Mark Jackson, former
Mark
NBA
Jackson.
star and current NBA commentator. How is it at 6'1" Mark was able to make it to the league, but not
Sheesh.
Troy? And that's just the first
6'10".
question that popped into my head.
Bro, that's a
How does
big
someone even
man.
get to 500 pounds and then stay not just mobile, but be also
Oh,
incredibly
and
athletic?
one.
How do you function
And
in
one.
society being this big? Like, what kind of toilet does this dude
Bro,
sit
Shaq was
on?
way
Troy
bigger than him. That
Escalade
guy was
Jackson
6'10".
is one of the most fascinating people in all of sports history. And it's time we answer all of these questions and more. Troy was always a man destined for the NBA.
He
Falling
nasty.
in love with basketball at around 10 years old. He practiced and played day and night at Rucker
Oh,
Park in Harlem.
damn.
And while he was just a chunky kid having
Oh,
fun playing
damn, he
ball,
nice.
his brother
He
Mark
nice.
was well on his way
Bro,
to
imagine
the
getting
NBA.
dunked on
In
him.
fact, when Troy was just 14 years old, their family hit the lottery when Mark was drafted 18th in the 1987 NBA
Mark.
draft, completely changing Troy's life and the direction it was headed. Imagine being a 14-year-old with a brother in the NBA. How many Big Macs would you order?
Damn,
Because
6'10",
Troy
bro.
started ordering a lot.
Bro
At
was
this
eating.
point, Troy was already a pretty spoiled
That's
kid, being the
Terrio.
youngest of 6 siblings. But now with a brother in the NBA making millions, a lot of the motivation Troy had was gone. His
That was
family
little Terrio.
already
You ain't
made
gonna
it,
tell me
and
nothing.
he was practically set for life. So instead of focusing on getting in shape, preparing for the NBA, scouting out colleges, or even pestering his older brother for NBA advice, Troy decided he'd rather put on a show down at Rucker Park. And that's
Ooh,
exactly
I want to go to Rucker,
what
bro. I
he
want to go
did.
to Rucker Park bad.
I
I want to see a windmill. Do a windmill, bro. Oh, he nice, bro. He nice. 500 pounds. Gonna
Throughout
crush you
Troy's
up, bro.
next 4 years of high school, he wasn't focused on making it to the NBA. He was focused on showing off and really just flexing on all these kids a quarter
Little
of his
travel,
size.
but it's
By
an
his
one.
senior year of high school, approximately 1,000 Big Macs later,
Bro, why they
Troy
keep-
hit his peak size.
why they keep on showing these
standing
Big
at
Macs, bro? I'm
6'10"
dead.
and weighing well over 500 pounds. Although
Sheesh.
Troy really had put no focus into making it to the NBA, his size alone had
Sheesh.
attracted scouts to come watch him play. Not in your typical high school games,
Bro,
but down at
fuck.
Rucker
I
Park.
can't get
Being
over it,
6'10", 500 pounds doesn't leave you with a lot of options.
You huge, bro.
It's not like Troy could go work in an office job in a cubicle. He couldn't even walk through the door. So when he was offered a full ride scholarship to Wallace Community College in Selma, Alabama,
ride?
he felt
That's
like
crazy.
he had to take it. What else could he do other than make
You
it
gotta
to the
take a
NBA?
full ride, bro.
Proving there was more than enough room for a 500-pound player in college. Troy performed well past expectations.
Damn.
While he wasn't playing at the highest levels of college ball, Troy's complete disregard for the multiple defenders on him
dunk on him,
solidified a
bro.
long-term spot on the roster, finally catching the eye of a Division I school after he received all-region
He went
honors
D1
as a
too? He
sophomore.
going to go
Troy
D1?
was approached with another full-ride scholarship
Another
to
full-
the University
oh, damn.
of Louisville. Under the supervision of legendary coach Denny Crum, Troy's scholarship was not without its conditions, essentially stating he had to replace the Big Macs with salads.
Oh,
Troy was
nah.
expected to drop well below the 400-pound mark, a weight he hadn't
Nah.
seen since his early high school days back at Rucker Park. This, along with being placed on a team whose style of play was more
Damn,
structured
no
than
more Big
anything
Macs,
he had
bro?
ever
That's hard,
experienced
bro.
before, Troy's production plummeted. No longer having extra weight to put to use, he was now a big man on a roster
Oh,
who
man.
frankly saw him as a freak. Playing only 20 games over his 2-year stint at Louisville, the only thing Troy gained from his experience was a bachelor's degree in communications.
Oh, man.
Depressed and down on his luck,
Oh,
Troy
man.
turned to the one thing he loved more than being at Rucker Park:
Big Mac.
his love for the McDonald's
I
Big
know
Mac.
it. I
Going to
know
the
it.
same
I know
McDonald's he had gone to as a kid in Harlem, Troy was out of college, back in town, and back on his way to 500 pounds.
Oh,
With
man.
time on his hands, Troy quickly found himself a spot playing with the Harlem Globetrotters. Now, Troy would only play alongside them for a brief period, but he had no idea that his next big opportunity was just around the corner. While Troy was busy dunking on some 100-pound kids down at Rucker Park,
Hey, he
right
got
down
that
the street
cardio
was a
in, though.
small
He working
sports
out,
gear
bro.
company, a company known as And One.
And One,
now,
baby.
at the time, And One was in its infancy, and as a company, they were looking for any way to market their sports apparel. And that's when a tape landed on their desk, showing off some local street ball highlights.
Oh. Very nasty. Oh, that's that 420p. 420p,
Quickly
baby.
realizing the unlimited potential in New York's forgotten street ball legends, And One became known across New York not for their appeal, but for their street ball tapes. Starting out as a gimmicky tape, And One
They even,
Mixtape
they
Volume
even
1
sell
was given
clothes
out
anymore?
if you bought $100 of
wonder if
apparel.
they sell clothes
And people
anymore.
were quick to line up and down the street like this tape was a new Supreme drop. And One
No way,
immediately
bro.
realized they had struck gold
No
here,
way,
organizing
they
an
were
And One
fiending
tour
for no
that
N1.
promoted the company's image, establishing rosters by season like any other former league would. And One broke into significance after scoring airtime on ESPN in the early 2000s, which just so happened to be the time Troy Escalade Jackson jumped on the scene,
Damn, bro,
making
he's
a
big.
crater-like impact that rose And One to national
that
recognition.
effect was nasty.
Troy's
Hold
instant
up.
popularity amongst fans as the lovable giant made him a staple of the league's subsequent tours. Joining up with the team the same year as ball handling legend and now YouTuber,
the Professor? Yeah.
Troy found an unlikely friend in the 5'10", 150-pound point guard. With Troy's presence, And One quickly started
Professor
expanding
nice, bro.
from
He
New
nice
York
with
to
it.
Miami, Philly, DC, and eventually across the nation. And One's success is almost exclusively owed to the 500-pound ball handling monster. And just like that, And One took the nation by storm, selling out arenas.
They were like the
Thousands of fans
Harlem
lined up
Globetrotters, for
eagerly
real.
to see just how Escalade could move up and down
Damn,
the court
people
like a
were
Ferrari,
buying,
reaching an
like, tickets to
all-time
this?
peak in popularity in
I never heard
2005.
about this, bro.
Troy had done the impossible when he
Professor,
and the
yeah.
Professor made the cover of Sports Illustrated, a cover that historically was reserved for only the most legendary athletes, was now dominated by someone who survived strictly off of Big Macs. As the biggest
Bro,
recorded player
chill
in
on the
history to
Big
pick up a
Macs, bro.
basketball, Troy was easy to
Chill on
spot,
the Big
and he
Macs.
impressed all who saw him. But as the years would go on, Troy became caught up in the image he had created for himself, the lovable giant. I mean, just to put his popularity in perspective, this is a guy who was more well-known playing in a discount league than actual NBA players. Troy could walk into any club in the country and get VIP treatment,
No way.
literally, while guys playing for legit NBA teams would go unnoticed. His size, his ability, his personality all played a role in becoming the fan favorite he was.
That's funny,
And
bro.
everything that made him so great also led to his biggest tragedy. Despite his talent, there was no escaping the inevitable. Growing older in age, Troy's weight issues came knocking. Of all his teammates, it would be the Professor that had noticed Troy's weight was no longer helping him in the same way it used to. Instead, it was now slowing him down. Worried about how Troy's weight was affecting his
Damn, he
performance
did get
and
older.
ability to play
He got
throughout
older,
the
and that's
season,
what
the
happened.
Professor tried nudging Troy into a healthier lifestyle. Failing to keep the weight off that he would lose during the summer, the Professor went to his brother Mark for help. Having always known Troy as the biggest kid in town, Mark wasn't surprised. Agreeing that Escalade was just always going to be Escalade, the two decided to just accept the fact that Troy just wasn't interested in losing weight. And how could he be? Troy's entire success
Damn,
story
that's sad.
gravitated around the fact
That's
he was
sad.
such a great baller at his weight, doing things no one thought possible. Placed in a position to
All
double
that
down and
cardio?
continue his
He didn't lose
career
no weight?
at his weight, or listen to his body at the risk of losing it all, Troy made the decision many of us would. After years of abuse, his body had finally reached a breaking point. In 2011, while in the middle of promoting an upcoming street ball tour, Troy unexpectedly died in his sleep
Oh,
at the age
man.
of 38. Having just passed his
38?
physical to play with the Ball Up tour, Troy's death came as a huge surprise to everyone. but
38,
himself.
man was young.
Diagnosed
R.I.P.
with
big man.
hypertensive heart disease, Troy's inability to lose the weight when he needed to
R.I.P. big
had
man.
come full circle.
Damn, that
And
turned.
just like
that
that,
turned
the
quickly.
sports world lost
That
one of
turned
its
quickly,
most
man.
fascinating characters, redefining what it meant to be a sports entertainer. Troy's impact on basketball is
That's
one that will never be
crazy.
forgotten. He was clearly a man with the connections,
legend.
skill, drive, and talent to make it to the NBA.
Rucker Park
and
legend or
beyond.
what?
But at the end of the day, Troy followed what he truly loved until
Don't
the day
say
he
it,
died,
bro.
being the lovable giant that really just
R.I.P.
wanted
big
to
man.
entertain.
R.I.P.
If you've enjoyed this video, then we're sure
All right. That was my YouTube video about what was his name? Travis? Hold on. Troy Jackson. That was my video on. Let me restart. All right, everyone. That was my video on Troy Jackson, aka the 500-pound monster. RIP, big man. RIP. Thank y'all for coming out to my daily reaction video. That was my video on Troy Jackson, aka 500-pound giant. He was a GOAT, Rucker Park legend. Thank y'all. And I appreciate the support. And please subscribe to my YouTube and come to my stream every day on Twitch at 8 p.m. I stream every day on Twitch and every day daily reaction video at 5 p.m. Thank y'all. Let's go.